Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode number 139 of the Peak of Serenity podcast. I am, as always, one of your hosts, emallson, and joining me, we have my co-host, Anomoly.
Hello, a new name this week. Hello.
Yes, he's been demoted to the bottom of the admin list by Babylonius.
Because look, all because I wanted them to address me by my proper title. All right, and this
Dot
is the thanks
anomaly?
I get. What?
Dot
No,
anomaly?
my proper title. Hold on, wait. Where did I put it? Oh, here it is. It is. Where did I was? It's a very. It's a. So it says it's anomaly, comma number one admin, first of his name, king of the Andals, the right Ronar, and the first monks. And yeah, Babs demoted me to the bottom of the admin
Yeah,
list. So
justifiable.
I'm an anomaly. I'm still the number one admin. Still contend that. I'll die on that sword.
That is typically what happens when you put yourself on a sword.
That's true. Yeah. I guess so. I guess so. But in any event, how is how's week two of let's get into it. How's week two of Dragonflight going?
Oh man, it's so chill. This is amazing, honestly. Like, I have played a ton. Like, that's not to say that I haven't had anything to do. I have played a ton,
Hmm.
but there's so little that I like have to get done.
Yeah.
I've been focusing on raid prep, like strategy prep, not like grinding stuff in game.
Hmm.
And catching up. I did most of lore master on my monk. Um,
Oh, nice.
Partially because I actually did need the rep in order to get to the like 10th Tuskar renown to be able to get
Hmm.
the like special frozen fish for making feasts.
Gotcha. Gotcha.
So I did that, but I mean, it was like a couple of evenings just like doing side quests, and it was super chill. And then of course, Mythic Zero Tours.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's it. Lots of fishing, lots of doing old stuff. I got my paladin up to 70,
Oh,
and
nice.
um, debating whether I actually put the time in to get a Mythic Zero run on it.
Nice. Yeah. I've had a very similar like chill experience. We did like my Mythic Zero runs over the course of like 2 or 3 days, and like yeah, I mean it was cool to like not have to rush to get them done, or like not even that, like not have to rush to get certain stuff done daily.
Yeah,
Right. So I think like last time we did the podcast on like late on Monday last week, and Blizzard had just announced that they weren't going to go to like a daily reset on World Quest, which I think
yeah,
helps. Like
yeah,
I think that's like even though you don't have to do it, and like I don't know, there's like I think a lot of players that sort of do play this game, a lot, or just it's like their primary game that they play, right? I think you can debate what a lot means for most people, but it's the
yeah,
primary game they play. Like they don't want to have to feel that you have to log in, right? Like that's sort of what World Quest do is they make you feel like you have to log in, so you have like a timer of getting stuff done, and you can't just sort of like log in and be like, hey, what do I want to do today? There's like three people on in my guild. Maybe we'll try and do some like mythic zeros. I got like an alt that I can do them with, or
right.
I haven't done my great hunt yet this week. Like, let me go do that real quick.
Yep.
And so no, I've similar experience to me. It's just been very very chill. Did mythic zeros over like I think we did them like Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Just sort of like slowly got through them all. Um, did like all my weeklies. Actually got my druid to 70. So so I leveled my druid to 70 only gathering. So
Oh
my druid's
boy.
a herbalist and miner, and only did gathering on the druid. Then hit 70, and then it was like, you know what? I'm gonna go like do a couple world quests and get some gear. All of my gear was 250, and it was I like
Oh
died to like
no.
I pulled like two normal mobs and
And
like popped
died.
all my cooldowns and still died. Like still was just like
Yeah.
this is not good.
So the trick is
Um,
you go to the auction house and you spend 5k gold buying yourself a set of 340 crafted gear.
yeah, so that's to be fair, I turned around and just did that.
That's
Bought
what
all
I did on
three.
my
Yeah,
paladin. I mean, I hit
yeah.
I hit 70 and I was like eye level 285 or something.
Hmm.
Because I had just done like one of the really efficient routes, which is not really efficient for gear upgrades.
Right.
But there's some side quests that give like a crazy amount of experience really quick.
Hmm.
Just a bunch of short quests and they all give like 10k experience and you just like knock out 80k experience in 10 minutes.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, so it was that was my experience on the druid. I think I'm gonna actually try and do a Mythic Zero run on the druid tonight. At least like do like a handful of them, get it a little bit of gear.
If
So
you do, I got a paladin that potentially be
I might shoot you a quick message if I'm around. So
um
um
but
but yeah, no, oh sorry.
we are doing raid, like we're having our sit down going over raid bosses tonight.
Oh
So I've
nice.
been doing a lot of prep for that. So it was actually kind of nice. I mentioned last week that I was working on Wipefest stuff.
Hmm.
I continued that this week. So at this point, I did the Wipefest setups for all 7 of the bosses that were raid tested.
Oh, okay. Nice.
And so I also raid tested all 7 of those bosses. So I'm like super prepared. I feel like I know like everything about the bosses. It's great.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, nice. Yeah, no, we did I've done my like typical like just every time a new set of guides get posted, like read through it
Right.
basically. So like I've read Method posted all their stuff this morning, so I read through that. I was like making breakfast and
Yeah.
the Ready Check Pull stuff came out a couple days ago. So yeah, I've been slowly doing it. Set up the we use sort of the Viserios, I think that's the gentleman's
Yeah.
name or individual's names, spreadsheet for our healing cooldown. So
Yeah.
that's all set up and ready to go um
Yeah.
in terms of in terms of all that. So
Our healing officer started working on that this week for the early bosses, and in the Aeronog sheet for the healing assignments, they post giant Keck W.
yeah, yeah, there's like I looked at a little bit of the damage, looked at some like at least early logs, and I'm like, I don't we'll just we'll do this we'll do this on the fly. Like I have like a couple of major abilities tagged for some things that might work, but I mean
Yeah,
I think we still have like one or two players, like one or two healers that are still gearing up to classes right now, so I don't know exactly what they're gonna play.
right.
Um, but yeah, no, it's been like I think the general, like you mentioned, like the general feeling has just been very, very chill. Like been very much like before we started the show, I mentioned like last night I logged in and did a little bit of stuff on the druid, like one or two world quests. Did some of the PvP world quest popped again because they're like
Yeah,
on a slight. There's two that are on a slightly different timer. Did those on the monk, just for some rep, and then like logged off and played Rocket League for like 2 hours. And I was like,
yeah,
I don't feel like I'm behind. I don't feel like I'm like not as geared as I could be. There's a couple like okay, I could kill some super rares to get like 4 or like probably like 2 or 3 more eye level. But is it worth it? Probably not. Like that's not going to be the reason we don't clear like a bunch of normal bosses. So I'm like 374 on my monk,
yeah. That's where my
which
monk
should be
is.
perfectly fine to walk into like normal and heroic next
Yeah.
week. So
There was
um
there's also uh the when the world quests refreshed on Friday. So they're on a bi-weekly reset. If you remember that back from like the Visions of the Zoth stuff where it would like switch halfway through the week, it's Friday evening. It's actually
mhm,
halfway through our raid time. So
yeah.
that was fun during Nyalotha having the corruption vendor rotate halfway through our raid night. So
Oh
people would
yeah.
want to go and like pick up the corruption that they'd been saving up for during raid.
Yeah.
Always fun. What a mess of a system. Um, but anyway, the kind of Ring of Blood equivalent for Dragonflight, which is in Onaran Plains, was dropping Titan's Training Matrix rank 4 for a bunch of people, which is
Oh
382
really?
gear.
Yeah.
So I got that on my monk. That was nice. I crafted a bunch of gear for other people, and was just not able to craft any for myself because I hadn't gotten any. So I finally
Yeah.
got one for me. That was nice.
Nice.
I gotta go and do it. Yeah, actually, now that I think about it, see if I get or unlock it. You have to do the quest line to see the world quest, and that's actually
Gotcha.
like pro tip. Go do Lore Master. You unlock a ton of extra world quests. So if you care about
Oh,
loot from
interesting.
those, or just like doing them for gold or rep or anything like
Yeah.
that, go and do go and do the quests. Go and do Lore Master. And they like the world quests from that come from two sources: either direct unlocks, like the like Ring of Blood one,
Yep.
or ones just from like those quests give a ton of rep, just an absolute ton of rep. And by leveling up your rep with the different factions, you unlock stuff from them. Like as you get higher rep in Dragon Scale Expedition, you unlock rock climbing world quests and you unlock the like photography quests, and
Gotcha.
those then give you more rep with those factions as well. So it's like uh, as you get higher in rep, you get extra sources of rep.
Gotcha. Interesting. Yeah, I think there was I think I need to go back and do that on my monk too, actually. Because I'm a sucker for like clearing maps of world quests and like yeah, right now I don't have the climbing world quests. So my reps are generally pretty low, but like I
Yeah,
need to unlock climbing world quests and all that fun stuff. So
I was
yeah.
trying to get. Well, like I said, I needed the Tuskar rep for fishing in order to
Hmm.
make feasts, so I didn't have to pay 1,000,000 gold, or not literally, but a lot of gold for the
Yeah.
frozen fish. And then also trying to get rep with the centaurs for leatherworking stuff.
Ah, okay, yeah. Yeah, I have to. I don't like the problem is like enchanting and like alchemy, which I am. Like, I don't think there's any major recipes for alchemy, but like the enchanting ones are just spread everywhere.
Yeah,
Like, and that's like there's never like one rep I can farm for
yeah.
enchanting. So it's more of just like I gotta do everything, which sort of sucks. So
So Lore Master, like each zone is like dominated by a certain faction. Like if you go and you do Onaran Plains, you're mostly getting centaur rep. But
yep.
there's a quest line there for Dragon Scale Expedition. There's a couple of quest lines for Veldrak and Accord. I don't think
Oh,
there's any
okay.
Tuskar there, but like every zone is like a mix of them.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And then every zone just has like a dominant faction. Like if you go to Waking Shores, it's primarily Veldrak and Accord and Dragon Scale Expedition. If you go to the Azure Span, it's primarily Tuskar.
Gotcha. 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 Yeah, no, that makes sense. So, um, yeah, I guess I should go and do lore master. We'll go and do that. Maybe work on that tonight.
I finished Azure Span. I'm like 90% done with Onaran Plains, and I just haven't
Nice.
haven't gone back to continue working on it because I hit 10 renown with the Tuskar, which is what I actually needed. So I'm gonna unlock the rest slowly.
Gotcha. Are you using like an add-on to like check if you've gotten everything, or are you just
Nope.
sort of like flying around looking for stuff? Gotcha. Okay.
I so a lot of it is pretty easy to find some of the quests. Like if
Hmm.
you pull up your Azure Span, Sojourner of the Azure Span is what the achievement is called. Pull that up. There's a list of quest lines that you haven't done, and some of them are like really easy to figure out where they are. Like there's a couple that like specifically call out Camp Nowhere, so you just go to Camp Nowhere and
Gotcha.
pick up the quests and you do them. There's
Hmm.
a couple that specifically call out like Bracken Hide Hollow, so you go there and you do those. And then there's a couple that I couldn't find, and I just looked them up on Wowhead, found the starter quests.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah.
so
Nice, 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 nice. Well, that's fun. Yeah, I've done a couple. I did a couple of like the side quests in the opening zone, but I mean, yeah, I haven't gone back to do like just regular quests yet. So maybe that'll be something I do. But I spent a lot of time actually working on. I'm still so now my adventures in alchemy. By the way, I
oh boy,
absolutely hate the profession. It is dumb and stupid and like I like at this point now well, the way that it works for me is I do an experiment, don't discover either a new file or potion because now I'm just trying to do both. I'm just like I just want to
right?
discover recipes, right? So I do one, awesome. Second one, blow up. Wait 4 hours.
Yeah,
Like there, and then like wait 4 hours. Go back to the table. Do one, second one, blow up. Wait 4 hours. Last night before I quit, this is actually the reason I stopped playing because I was so angry. Cooldown had just come up. Was like, okay, let's discover a potion. It's gonna be awesome. Hit it, blow up on the first one after reset. So
yep,
I literally spent 8 hours without being able to actually like discover anything. And I'm like, I hate this. Like
yeah,
that, like I don't that mechanic. Like I get why the mechanics in it's there. I think like maybe I don't. Maybe I'm an idiot, right? Maybe I just don't know. Like if there's a way to like circumvent the. I know there's a way to circumvent the I know there's a way to circumvent the cooldown with like with an item, but you get that item from the discoveries. So I don't know if there's a way to
right.
actually craft that item. Maybe I don't know. But
I have no idea.
I hate the profession. So
I mean, this might make you feel better. I gained 1 skill point this week.
okay. I mean, it doesn't because I feel bad now. But No, it's like
I
I
mean,
that's
I'm basically capped until people start getting raid gear,
yeah.
until people start wanting to get raid gear crafted. I have not done. I'm in this like awkward spot where like I'm. There's a limit on the amount of knowledge points you get. Right, you can get like 18-ish per week from doing all the weeklies. There's like weekly treasure stuff that you can get and all this stuff.
Yeah.
Um, and so there's just like a limit on how many points you can get. So I'm at the point
Mhm.
where I can almost max out a second slot, and um, I could go for it and like for selling on in trade chat because people are buying at this point.
Mhm.
But I don't want to do that and then turn around next week and have somebody in my raid team go, "Hey, I want gloves crafted." You go, "Oh, I already invested all my points in helms in order to sell."
Right, yeah.
So I'm sitting on it. For now, people, if you do the Spark of Ingenuity quests, which you should, they're very short. Uh, you will be able to craft 2 raid item level pieces, or get 2 raid item level pieces crafted for you using work orders.
Mhm.
Um, the base eye level on those is 382, and that's actually like perfectly fine to do in a public order if you just want the base eye level for 382.
Yep.
It's actually like once you've unlocked one of those, it's actually really hard to get less than like quality 3 on them
Oh, nice.
because you just like you just have a certain level of knowledge spent. You just get kind of rank 3 for free basically. Um,
Yeah.
but going above that is hard.
Yeah, you need to invest a little bit more
Yeah,
um for those. Interesting. Yeah, no, I have not like that's the one thing I actually need to do some research on is like the crafting for next week for exactly what I'd want to craft. Um Particularly as a healer, like we're not gonna get any loot anyway for a couple weeks now
yeah,
that the master loot's back, which I mean I don't it doesn't matter to me, but yeah. Yeah. Yeah, no, but yeah, the professions, man. I just said alchemy, like the whole discovery, like it's just not like I wish it was more deterministic, or like the whole random blow up thing. I think wouldn't be as bad if like it wasn't random, because like I went on a tear like what was it probably like Wednesday night. I think I went like probably 9 discoveries in a row.
yeah,
I was like just trucking through them. It was great, and then now like since those 9, I've not had more than maybe 3 before it blows up again. It's just like, oh. And
yeah.
then yeah, last night's back to back. I was like, God, this game is so dumb. Oh, so where the Mavs have been at WoW in a while, I'll say. So that's good. Um, but no, it's been cool. It's been a cool, like we said, super chill, second week 2. Going back through Mythic Zeros again. That was fun. Everybody knew what to do, sort of like not as unknown.
Not as
Um,
messy as week 1.
yeah, no, definitely. I mean, the end of third boss or final boss of Ruby Life Pool is still terrible, still like awful, but everything else is
Yep,
pretty okay,
yep.
pretty okay. So
Speaking of actually like rep and doing lore master, there's a couple of things from this week. There's a hotfix that hit I think yesterday, Friday, that increased the number of quests that you can have in your quest log at once to
yep,
35. So that's plus 10. Kind of nice. I personally
a
didn't
solid
find it
change.
that necessary once I dropped all of my Shadowlands quests, but if you don't want to do that, this will help you.
Yep.
Um, and then I don't know if this is a new thing or just like a tip, but once you hit a certain rep with Dragon Scale Expedition,
Oh
there
yeah.
are flags at high points all throughout the Dragon Isles. They give 250 rep apiece, and they're like actually really easy. When you fly close to them, they pop up on your map. Wowhead
Hmm.
has coordinates for them all. There's probably 3 levels. No, not quite 3 levels. Like two
So it's like
levels
five.
of renown.
Yeah, it's like 5,000 total rep if you collect all
Right.
the flags. So, that's 2 levels basically. Yeah.
Yeah. So nice little renown bump. And this is the kind of thing I was saying, where like as you get more renown, you get more ways to get more renown.
Hmm.
So, um, do that lore master to get that initial bump of renown to unlock more ways to get renown, and then
Yeah,
get to those later unlocks.
exactly. So, yeah, and then I guess there's maybe a couple of other things that have come out over the past week. The big one, which is more maybe businessy and not as fun in terms of in-game stuff, but if you guys weren't aware, Microsoft had entered into agreement to purchase Activision Blizzard. Um,
Yeah,
like last year, earlier this year, sorry, for a lot of money. Like, what is it, like 60 or 70 billion dollars, $69 billion? Sorry,
a
just
a
looking it up.
small country's GDP worth of money.
Yeah, like an absolute ton of money. And so that's been going on. And like, with, if you're not familiar, any large merger like this requires a bunch of, not only just the two companies agreeing to it, but then also in many cases the governments agreeing to it. And so Microsoft, being Microsoft, is has a very long storied history with antitrust litigation.
Right.
But we found out this week that the FTC here in the US, so the Federal Trade Commission, which is sort of the federal body that governs all of this stuff, has sued to block the merger. So they basically approved this week to file a suit to block the merger between Microsoft and Activision Blizzard. Um, just from like my understanding and sort of following this a little bit, is like, this isn't the end of the merger. This is just sort of a roadblock in
Yeah.
Microsoft and Activision getting done. What the FTC had done is they had actually collected responses from other industry leaders, so like Sony and um,
Yeah.
Epic and other sort of just game companies, to like get their feedback on what they thought of the merger. If you want to get some drama, the Sony response is hilarious, because they literally called out things that they do as like what they think Microsoft's going to
Right.
do.
Right.
So so yeah, I mean, wasn't the best response, but no, the FTC is suing to stop it. This will go to some sort of court here in the US at least, and then yeah, we'll see how it goes. I think a lot of the preliminary, like, just sort of general opinions I've read, say that like they don't think this will stop the merger, at least here in the US.
I agree.
Um, yeah, but Europe is still sort of going through their thing, so the EU still has to approve this also. And
Right.
I think they have like something like 8 or 9 different countries actually have to approve the merger, which is always fun
That sounds like
for
an
something like
enormous
this.
pain.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think at least from the US side, what is most likely to happen is that the merger goes through with some stipulations on like exclusivity of games and kind of vertical integration kind of things,
Hmm.
which are usually when they're looking at mergers, they are, when you look at something like the cable mergers that happened, they added
Right.
stipulations on like you have to do this and that, you have to like provide service to these areas at least this quality level. And it did an extremely poor job of like making sure that actually happened, but that is
Hmm.
neither here nor there. Uh,
Yeah.
but yeah, I think that's what is most likely to happen in the US.
Yeah. Plus, like, kind of the big contentious point, as funnily enough, is the Call of Duty franchise. And Microsoft came out and said they basically made a public 10-year commitment to continue to bring Call of Duty to the Nintendo consoles, but not to Sony consoles, which
Which
is
is
sort of a
hilarious.
just a little bit of a shot across the bow to old Sony, which is funny because Sony,
Sony
in
is
the
like
whole gaming
the
space, is like almost, even with like, I think with the merger, Microsoft only makes it to number two, uh, in terms of like actual like revenue from a yearly basis. Sony makes like billions and
yeah.
billions of dollars from PlayStation and all that fun stuff. So,
So the if you rank each company to by what how many exclusives and how many major exclusives they have, like Nintendo is number one
yeah.
because you have stuff like Pokemon, Zelda, all the Mario games, all of that stuff is just all Nintendo and only
Hmm.
Nintendo. And then Sony's number two by
Yeah.
like a mile over Microsoft. Just a lot of the Microsoft ones or the Xbox games either aren't platform exclusive in any meaningful way
Hmm.
or have very brief exclusivity, um, in part because they're also PC games. That's
Right.
like one of the things that Microsoft has done for a long time is that they do like Xbox and PC exclusive, and then like 3 months later it comes out for the PlayStation.
Yeah. Yeah. So I mean, it's not. Yeah, it shouldn't. I don't know. We'll see. I don't foresee this being a huge issue, but yeah, we'll see how the once the government gets involved, anything can happen. And of course, the FTC suing it just means they typically want to take a closer look, figure
Yeah,
out what's actually going to go on, and then yeah, yeah. No one seems too concerned just yet about this falling through, but it's still early, so
yeah,
we shall see. A couple other quick things before we get into I think the meat of today's talk, which we actually never talked about, but it was I think we're going to talk about the raid a little bit, and then a lot of the upcoming tank changes.
yeah.
But before we get there, one final thing. Excuse me. Double Agent, who, if you're not familiar with, is a neutral pacifist Pandaren monk. I don't know if they're a monk. I forget what class they actually are.
I think they were
Um,
shaman.
are they a Pandaren shaman? That's hilarious. Probably for Ghostwolf, I'll be completely honest with
Okay.
you. Yeah. But they're a neutral. They never picked a faction. They sort of are stuck on the Wandering Isle. And they are famous for leveling to max level just through gathering. And so yeah, so Double Agent hit 70. First neutral player to hit 70 just from gathering materials from that aisle, which is so funny. Um, this person is dedicated because they've done it every expansion I think since
Yeah.
MOP, which I find hilarious. So
It's
it's awesome.
it's also funny. So if you look at the Reddit thread for this, somebody went, "Oh, this is easy now because of all the pet battle XP." So they just like do the pet battle dailies and then they hit 70, blah blah blah. And Double Agent themselves came into the thread and it was like, "That works great. I would have hit level 70 2 months from now because that's how long you have to do in order to hit 70 just from the dailies." So there's a lot of
Yeah.
gathering still.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Which is I find this type of stuff in game pretty funny or just pretty cool. Like somebody like that dedicated to this is to dedicate to this sort of continuing to like level up each expansion. I think previous to this everybody sort of always asked about this guy.
Yeah.
If you're familiar with him. So um but yeah, no, I think that it was a light week in terms of actual changes. I mean, or actual sort of news. I think the one thing we probably won't talk about today, which I don't think affects everybody too much, is there was a handful of like instance changes or hot fixes for
Yeah.
like some of the specific instances. Many of them actually reducing some of the damage. And so speaking to the mythic zeros and the mythic dungeons, right? Um, so yeah, so a couple of changes in that area, but nothing too crazy.
Yeah.
Um, so cool. Well, let's get into some of like the big topics, maybe.
Yeah, do you
If
want to
you
hit
want.
tank changes first? Or you want to hit raid stuff first?
Let's hit tank changes first, because I'm honestly all I know is that like I just know from Twitter what those are, so I know nothing about that. What actually happened?
All right,
So
so there's two things here, and I'm going to start off with the easy one. The easy one is that they took away the 10% damage reduction aura that they had given to all tanks in patch 9.0.5 as part of the hotfix that, fixed the Demon Hunter magic damage conduit. They gave they were like, tanks are too squishy, we're going to give you all 10% DR. And
hmm
that went a long way. That made things better. They took that away. All the tanks lost it, except 4.
oh
So for Vengeance Demon Hunter, they get a nerf from a nerf to Havoc Demon Hunter that's intended to reduce Havoc's self-sustain in PvP. So they're
gotcha,
kind of getting nerfed for not even their spec in PvP, for the other spec in PvP,
gotcha.
which has got to feel great. So they actually, most specs are getting effectively like a 10% nerf. Demon
Uh-huh.
Hunters are getting a 12% nerf.
Jesus. Okay.
So that's fun. And then Warriors. Warriors nerf is split across two things. They have Vanguard, which is their passive. It gives them armor and all of that stuff. It also had a 5% damage reduction baked in. They removed the 5% damage reduction. Then they also nerfed defensive stance by 5%. It was 15%, or it was 20%, now it's 15%.
hmm
Catch is You don't just sit in defensive stance all the time.
That's what I heard. I saw this.
This is not classic. You don't just sit in D stance. Um, so in practice, warriors in a lot of scenarios have a 5% damage reduction, not a 10%. So they are not only still the tankiest, they got
Yeah,
nerfed by less than other tanks.
that's
Now,
fun. That's fair.
um, defensive stance, like if you really are caring about the damage reduction on your tank, like how tanky you are, you will
Uh-huh.
be playing a good chunk of the time in defensive stance. I'm not familiar with the exact mechanics of it. I don't think you can. I'm not sure if you can get 100% uptime on it now, if it's an actual like true stance or if it's a cooldown. I don't remember. I have
Yeah.
not leveled my warrior. Um, so if you are doing things at the level where you do need to care about that extra DR, it is the same kind of nerf as it is for the other tanks. But in raid, they already weren't going to be sitting in D stance the whole.
Right. Yeah.
So for a lot of the raid, they just have 5% less of a nerf than other tanks. Same thing in like weekly kind of keys. Other tanks ate twice as much of a nerf as warriors who weren't going to be sitting in D stance time anyway. So that's a lot of fun.
That's
Um,
so. And I mean, just so we're on the same page, like warriors are generally considered to be
the best tank.
like the best
Yes,
tank right now. Yeah.
yes, that
Gotcha.
is
So
correct.
gotcha. The
Yeah,
escape. That's awesome.
yeah. Now for the slightly more complicated piece, these nerfs are preceded by a nice big paragraph on their reasoning for doing these changes. I'm going to pull it up on stream, but honestly, you don't need to read it. Um,
Okay.
the the short version, actually, I am going to read bits of it. So they say, in general, we found that the new talent trees have introduced a lot of power across all classes and specializations. That is true. Talents that were once exclusive can now be equipped at the same time. Through our recent testing, we've determined that damage done to tanks needs to be increased. While we're thrilled that players are enjoying playing tanks in Dragonflight and want their role to be healthy, there are some negative effects that come from tanks being too strong and that we want to avoid. And they call out specifically like tanks
Oh,
being
this
the
is so
last
dumb.
person to die and just like soloing the rest of a pack. Which is, fair. That is a thing that happens, and if your entire group dies and the pack is at like 50% and the tank just finishes it,
That's bad.
it feels bad for everybody else in the group, and I understand that. The problem is there are two specs that could do that: Warrior, Protection Warrior, and Blood DK. Blood DK has always been kind of the one that if anybody can do it, a Blood DK can, because
Right.
that's their thing. Massive self healing is their thing. And a deep cooldown pool. Like they've got a lot going for them in that scenario.
Right.
Pro Warrior is just busted, so like, of course, Pro Warrior.
Mm,
Uh,
right.
Brewmaster couldn't. I have no idea. I don't think Vengeance kind of could. It involved kiting. Guardian Druid, I don't think they really could unless you're like kiting and then like shifting out to regrowth yourself and things like that. So like you could, but it's a lot harder.
Right. Right. Right.
But like monks can't. Paladins maybe also could because also a lot of healing. But I feel like that's a lot more of a stretch than Blood DK.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
No. Oh, sorry.
so it's just like it feels like they took away this DR passive from everybody to fix a problem with two specs, and then also didn't fix the problem for one of the specs because they ate half the nerf,
Hmm.
and also probably also didn't fix it for the other one.
That's funny. Yeah.
So,
No. Oh, sorry.
sorry, you go ahead.
Yeah. No. I mean, like, I read through this. Like I said, I read some of the Twitter comments, and yeah. I mean, having the whole like the nerf part of it is fun, but like the comment that got to me was that like we want healers to play a key role in keeping tanks alive. Like no healer likes only healing tanks. Like no
Yeah,
healer enjoys like that part of the gameplay loop. Like if anything, it sort of disrupts like what a lot of classes want to do. And they say like tanks should be able to easily solo a large portion of encounters after the rest of the group has died. And like that is not an issue with tanks, right? Like the solo part is, but like why is the group dead and the tank isn't? Right? And like that could be because you just have a bunch of random unavoidable damage that goes out. And like there's like mobs at the start of Oldemon that just like randomly throw things at
The
raid
hail,
members.
the rain of, yeah, stone rain,
It's
whatever it's called.
Yeah, and it's just like that's not a tank thing. Like the like tanks could never you should never have to you could never heal tanks, and if you still lose group members, that stuff like that's more of like an encounter thing than like
Yeah,
tanks being too powerful. So
and like,
yeah, I mean
okay,
oh, sorry.
part warrior is too good.
Right, yeah.
Part warrior is too good. Compared to everything else, it's too good.
Hmm.
Blood decay. I mean, I don't either. Blood decay is either bad or it's capable of living for a long time after its group members die, and there's very little in between.
Yeah.
Just by the design of the spec, its primary mitigation is death strike. So if you have death strike and defensive cooldowns, you can just live until your defensive cooldowns run out, pretty much.
Right, yeah.
And with 4 defensive cooldowns, you can live for a while.
Yeah. Exactly.
And this doesn't really change that. All this does is, you know, kick like Brewmaster while it's down. And these kind of second tier and third tier specs
Yeah.
just kind of get worse. So I mean, this mostly reinforces Prot Warrior's role as the best Mythic Plus tank for season 1.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's just I don't know what they're thinking sometimes in terms like this is like one of those things where it's like I don't know why they are like why they'd make sort of an overall change like this. I get maybe it's based on the data and like but I mean, I don't get it. Like this is not what as a non-tank, I don't want this and I'm pretty sure tanks don't want to be dependent on their healers to like ensure they don't die, right?
It's so like, so Brewmaster kind of we've been quietly asking for buffs because it's not that bad, but it's
Uh-huh.
categorically one of the worst tanks. It's
Yeah.
not unplayable. You can definitely play it in raid. It's one of the ones that I am prepping for raid because I intend to have it ready to play.
Uh-huh.
Um, but like, it's not going to be number 1 for pushing keys. It's probably not going to be number 1 for raid. Like, its
Mhm.
spot in raid depends primarily again on whether they're bringing Mistweavers and Windwalkers, and if they're not, then they bring a Brewmaster, and that's just kind of how it goes for world first comps.
Yeah.
Um, but for the rest of us, like, you're fine to play Brewmaster. Brewmaster's weaknesses are way, way, way more pronounced in Mythic Plus than in raids. Raids, you're fine.
Yeah.
But man, it feels really bad to go from like last week where we got the like halfway buffed, like buffing our stamina, which then nerfed Gift of the Ox, and it's like, yeah, it's a net buff, it's fine.
Yeah.
To
Like
go from that to 10% more damage taken.
That's that's absolutely crazy. Like, yeah, like I said, that's absolutely crazy. That's like the blanket nerf they did, and I didn't even realize the warrior thing, the fact that they like
Yeah,
only like nerf defensive stance. When like, yeah, I mean, I don't know how often you're actually in defensive stance as a warrior, right? Like you
yeah.
can do most things from like battle stance, which would be purged to a little bit
You
more
can
extra
do
damage.
everything from battle stance. There are no stance limitations on abilities for warriors.
Interesting. Yeah.
I'm actually pulling up that talent now because I don't remember. I should have done this before the show, but I didn't. Uh, so yeah, defensive stance lasts until canceled, so it is permanent.
Gotcha.
But it's also like the old defensive stance reduces your damage done by 10%. So you really are incentivized to not be in that if you can avoid it, which
Yeah.
a lot of people can. So yeah.
Yeah.
I
They
don't know.
will.
It's really annoying, and it I'm not surprised that they zeroed out this aura. I am surprised that it took this long for them to zero it out. This is kind of like they have the
Yeah.
spec auras that they zero out at the start of every expansion, where like your spec has a plus 20% to, you know, it has as part of its aura.
Mhm.
They bake that into the spell damage and then rebalance everything, and zero out the aura so that things don't get too crazy. Um,
Gotcha.
I'm a little bit surprised that this wasn't done at that point. and then I could balance things from there.
Uh-huh.
Especially with there being differences in the aura, where like for vengeance it was a talent, for warrior it was only 5%.
Yeah.
So like that feels like a great place to like zero it all out and start fresh and rebalance that. But honestly, it was probably a victim of their release date.
Yeah. Yeah. Just not enough runway, not enough time. Yeah, because they would have had a lot of this information already. So it would have been nice to see like if they were just going to do a blanket change, I will say, maybe not nerf. Well,
Yeah,
I guess it's a reduction in power. Um, yeah, I feel like they could have done this earlier too.
yeah.
Um,
So all of these changes come in on the weekly reset this coming week. So that's the 13th for North America, 14th for Europe, 15th for Asia.
yep.
So none of them are in yet. But honestly, you're probably not going to notice the difference because you're going to be going into Mythic Plus and Raid, neither of which you have any experience with, really, with the
Yeah.
current tuning, unless you've been playing on beta, like
Yeah,
right
exactly.
now.
Yeah. Well, and beta's been down, I think, actually,
Yeah,
the past couple days. So yeah, no, yeah, so I guess we'll see how these sort of maybe shake up tank meta for the raid. Um, but uh but yeah, no, it sucks to see large scale changes like this so close to release, I'll say.
yeah.
Or like raid release at least.
It is
So
the one saving grace is that it is a fairly equal change aside from Prot Warrior. So
mm,
like it's not really shifting the meta in any meaningful way. Like it accentuated Prot Warrior being better than everyone else,
gotcha.
but it's not making a difference between like Brewmaster versus Protection Power, Blood Decay, or Druid. Like those
Right.
four are all got the same exact nerf. They did not change relative to each other. Demon Hunter is slightly worse than the rest because of the Havoc nerf, and
Hmm.
um, and Warrior slightly less than the rest.
Yeah.
Well, more than slightly, a lot less than the rest.
Yeah. Yeah. Gosh. Yeah, and then there were so anything more on the tank changes? Because there was a couple other class changes were also coming in this reset, but
Not really.
okay. Yeah, because they did the big post on tanks, and then within the same post there were a number of other like DPS changes. Nothing to monk. Monk sort of at least Windwalker and Miss Weaver escaped sort of any nerfs or any changes. We'll say in terms of damage spec stuff, and then yeah, there were no healer changes actually across the board. Just damage dealer and tanks this reset. So we'll see what that means going into Tuesday, like what healers are where and how that all works out. So ooh, excuse me.
Yeah.
But yeah, maybe that's a neat little segue into the raid.
Yeah.
And so go a little bit of that. So yeah, so the raid does come out this Tuesday. All three, because there's not an far wing, right? So it's all three difficulties are open. So you can do normal, heroic, mythic, same day, sat reset for whenever your reset is.
Yep.
So in the US, 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Or maybe it's 11. Anyway, it's in the morning. I don't remember.
Yep.
Um,
Assuming
but
servers are up in time.
that's true. But yeah, the raid is upon us, and along with that Mythic Plus too. But maybe we'll focus this on a little bit more on the raid. If you have some Mythic Plus stuff, we can talk about it. Um, but yeah, it's a Vault of the Incarnates. It's what 8 bosses,
Yeah, it's 8
something like that.
bosses. Um, the raid is structured into basically 3 wings. 2 wings open up immediately after you kill the first boss. 1 wing then opens up after you clear the other 2 wings, and that wing has the final 2 bosses.
Gotcha. Okay.
So, kind of what you do is you kill Aranog, then you have the option to either go to the Primal Council, or you can go to Taros or Sinarth, who are part of the same wing. There's like
Gotcha.
Taros, Sinarth, and Kura Grim Totem are 1 wing, Primal Council and Dethea Ascended are the other wing.
Hmm.
And then once you kill all of those, you get to go and do Diurna, Broodkeeper Diurna, and then Rajagath.
Razagath. Yeah.
So I will say I have no idea what Rajagath does. Absolutely none. I have not looked.
Yeah.
I have barely looked at the dungeon journal for the boss. Like I have read some of the abilities, but like we didn't do Wipe Fest stuff for it because there's no logs. We
Right.
didn't do. We're not planning to cover it tonight when we as a guild go over strategy stuff.
Hmm.
One of the perks of being a weekend team, right? We can
Like
just
three
look at people
days.
kill it on Tuesday.
God, that's the worst part about Tuesday.
So we're gonna be able to not only like it's not gonna come down to whether like the world first guilds knock it out before our raid time. We don't raid on Tuesday.
Right. Yeah.
So we're gonna get to see heroic progression for everybody, and then that's just gonna make everything infinitely easier for us. We can just pull up kill VODs, ideally, as long as it's not like a Sylvanas or Jailer situation. Pull up kill
Yeah.
VODs or um, or Rajageth. I do all of our prep with like actual VODs and logs to go along with the dungeon journal, which
Oh,
is
that's
like
nice.
the best way to do prep, by the way. If you're like wanting to learn these bosses, I recommend doing things in like this order. First, watch a video of somebody killing it or getting
Oh,
close to killing it.
yeah.
Not every boss got killed on PTR, but most of them did, even on Mythic.
Hmm.
Uh, and then to find a log of it and go through that together with the dungeon journal. And if you ever get confused, go back to the video and watch the video. It is
Gotcha.
just so much easier to understand what's going on if you get to see it.
Yeah. Yeah, which is why like I don't know about you guys, but most of the stuff that we link is video guides or like videos of the fights because yeah, people reading like there's so much to interpret and like when the guide says one thing, it could mean something different. So,
Yeah.
um
I posted like text notes of all the bosses, well, most of the bosses this morning, for people in advance of our little get together to go over strats. Did
nice.
not post video guides because there's not a lot of correct ones yet. A bunch of people jumped the gun and made video guides. Ready check or
Ready check pull.
ready check poll. Those ones just came out and I haven't looked at them yet, so they may be
Yeah.
correct. But the only reason I said it is because they just came out and therefore have like the
The
latest
latest.
changes. Because a bunch of them got a bunch of changes after beta testing. Like beta
Yeah.
testing ended on the raid at the first week of November, and there's a bunch of spell data changes in the that you can see on Wowhead that happened in the weeks after
Yeah.
that. So there's a lot of changes actually.
Oh wow. Yeah, I didn't realize there was that many changes. I mean, to be completely honest with you, I just started my prep this week, so it's like
Yeah,
I haven't really read anything earlier. I didn't. The raid testing is always tough for me to do, just because I have a job that doesn't allow me to sort of raid test during the day.
yeah,
So, um, but yeah, no, it's I'm actually getting excited for the rate for the both the race and to just get back into rating. Like I think
yeah,
that's sort of the like to me rating still is the the best part of World of Warcraft. Like it's always the fun stuff. It's always the like with your guild sort of hanging out, doing PvE stuff. It's yeah, no, I'm a huge fan of the of rating in general. So um but yeah, it'll be fun to jump into this. It's a shorter raid, what, 8 bosses we said, right?
yeah.
Um, any, I guess maybe this is so I had a couple of notes about like what we could see like or talk about here, but like any coolish looking bosses
Um, so I
you
guess
thinking?
the little bit I've read from the Rajageth Encounter Journal looks really cool.
Yeah.
Haven't seen any of the rest of it, so I don't think I can kind of list that one because I have no idea. It could be a
That's
complete
fair.
mess.
That's true. That is true.
Um, there are like two gimmick fights this tier, pretty much. They are Sinarth, which is the frost spider one that like
Yep.
has the like sliding around on ice is the main mechanic or one of the main mechanics,
And you go up.
and you go up the stairs. Yes,
Which by the way, what happens when you change levels? Automatic. Oh no, it's fall through a floor.
it's fall
Okay,
through
this
a
is not.
floor. Yeah,
Yes, specifically
yeah,
fall. Damn it.
yeah.
So yeah, this is gonna be a terrible fight. But okay,
Um,
continue. Slidey ice mechanic.
and so the other gimmick fight is Dithea Ascended, which the gimmick there is like a shit ton of knockbacks. Um,
Yeah.
It's a wind boss. The wind pushes you around. That's pretty much like the conceit of the fight. And Dithea, I'm concerned about.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, I don't think that that one is going to be one of the S tier bosses of the raid, at least on Mythic. We'll see. The reason for that is that, especially on Mythic, so it's kind of like this Zymox kind of fight. If you think about Sepulchre's Zymox, where you had the platforms that you sent people to build ads.
Yeah.
You do that on Dithea. The way you do that is an ad spawns on the main platform. You kill that ad, and it knocks you over to the other platform. And then you kill an
Oh,
ad
okay,
there,
okay,
and that
okay.
knocks you back to the main platform. Catch is, um, the tank mechanic also knocks you back. And I mentioned this when we were going over stuff for raid testing as well. So you have this
Yeah.
thing where depending on your DPS on the ad, the knockback from the ad changes in time and could
Oh
overlap
no.
with the tank mechanic.
Yeah, yeah.
So at least for me as a tank, that sounds awful. And I
Yeah.
know for other people playing, like I can't imagine being a pug and just having your tank die because they get double knocked and having to try and explain to somebody that's not
Yeah.
tanking that it happens because of when they're killing the ad. Um,
Ah, okay.
the ad timers are a lot more consistent on heroic than on mythic because on mythic you do a different thing to spawn them, um,
Hmm.
and so they're more variable. So it's going to be even more like out of control. I actually think I'm playing Blood DK on that because Death's Advance lets you. So,
Nice.
regardless of
Death
what I play on the other
not
7 bosses,
DKs.
I think Blood DK is what I'm doing on that one because Death's Advance just trivializes that difficult.
Yeah, yeah.
You can
Oh,
do
it
things with
seems
Transcendence as well, but it's harder.
gotcha.
Not as good.
Okay, okay, okay. Yeah, no, it's yeah, that win the not the win boss, but at least the Sinarth boss. That was one of the bosses I was just watching the Ready Check pull stuff for earlier today, right before the podcast. And yeah, like the going up platforms, the ice stuff, it seemed pretty cool. Seemed not too bad.
Yeah,
The council boss doesn't seem terrible.
the council boss is
Uh
way better than Prototype Pantheon. Like
yeah,
Prototype Pantheon was a mechanic vomit boss, and we talked about that, and that's kind of why it
yeah,
sucked. It was a mechanic vomit.
yeah.
Um, the Primal Council is actually not. Despite having 4 bosses, there's only really like 4 mechanics that you have to care about. There's one per boss,
Oh, nice, nice,
and
nice.
it's the interactions between those that you have to care about, which is actually kind of neat. And
Okay.
I'm curious to see how it plays out. It could end up
Hmm.
being really good. There's a lot that depends on the timings of those abilities. So there's 4. There's Earth Pillars that spawn. Then you can break those Earth Pillars with lava pools.
Oh, okay, okay. Lava pools, like it.
But you need the Earth Pillars to ground yourself and get rid of a lightning debuff.
Okay.
And
A lot of
you need the
stuff.
lava pools to remove the to keep from getting frozen by the blizzard. So there's the 4 elements, and they
Jesus
all interact with each
Christ.
other in little ways and sometimes big ways. And the other thing is, Earth Pillars do pulsing damage to the raid while they're alive on heroic and
Gotcha. So
above.
you
So
always want to at least clear all but one, right? So you have one in reserve or whatever. Or you want to
you want to
clear.
clear, you want to keep, I think, a couple alive because the lightning
Yeah.
debuff spreads. If you touch somebody else, you give it to them, and you
Oh,
both have it. It's not
great.
like Lords of Dread where it like
Great.
transfers; it duplicates.
Yeah.
So it's contagious. So having it all only one pillar makes it harder to like get in, clear your buff, and get out without picking another one up on the way.
Gotcha. Yeah. Yeah. That sounds. Oh. Oof.
So it could be pretty good. One of the things that people tried on beta that was really inconsistent because the beta servers were laggy
Hmm.
is actually just stacking the raid on the earth pillars so that they instantly clear lightning
Okay.
debuff.
Yeah.
I don't think that's going to be a strat that they want to work, but it might be the price that gets paid in order to have the rest of the lightning debuff like feel like a good mechanic. Um,
Instead of yeah, just awful.
so yeah, we'll see. It's going to be interesting.
Yeah.
Um, but honestly, like I think the fight that I am looking forward to the most is probably Taros, which is one of the early bosses. This is potentially
Yeah.
boss number 2, but this is the big rock golem.
It sits in the center. It
It
doesn't
sits in the
move or whatever.
center.
Yeah.
And the reason for that is it like borrows a bunch of mechanics from other bosses that I like in kind of interesting ways. Well, most of them I like. One of them I don't. But it brings together the tank beam mechanic from Halandris, where you have this tank beam and you have to use it to remove things from the fight.
Okay. Cool. I
Um,
like that.
and there's a raid soak that goes out that, when it goes off, spawns earth pillars. Those are the things you have to break. Um,
Okay.
and when you do it, they have kind of this like glacial spike thing from Kel'Thuzad where they apply a dot to the raid. So it's at the same time like similar to Halandris, where you're using this tank beam to break the things, and you have to like do pretty
Hmm.
good positioning to hit them correctly, but also different because in Halandris you just had to break the shield. It didn't matter. There was no risk of
Right.
like breaking too many shields and blowing up the raid. But here, um, you don't want to apply 6 stacks of the dot from breaking a pillar to the raid at once.
No.
You want
No.
to do
No. No.
like
No.
3.
Yeah.
So there's a fun little element of finessing that tank beam to hit exactly 3 pillars, and you get the next one and you do the other 3 pillars, and then you do your tank swap and they get to do it.
Gotcha.
Um, so I'm looking forward to that one, probably the most. Um, and we'll see. Again, like I don't know anything, so that could be like the boss that everybody looks forward to doing.
Yeah.
I don't know yet.
Yeah. Yeah. No. Yeah, I have not done as much extensive research as you all say. So, like, other than watching it, like I said, like a handful of videos, I think that's where I'm at. I mean, Taros didn't seem that interesting to me just based on the video, but I can see like based on your description how that could get cool. Um Sinarth, I think, is just it's just a fun boss. It just look like I'm assuming there's like two ways the mechanic goes. It's either gonna be fun and people find it enjoyable, or it's gonna be awful to interact
Yeah,
with or to use.
yeah.
And I think,
And
yeah,
I think Taros is more of like this is going to be fun for me as a tank kind of thing because there's not
yeah,
that much else for other people to do.
yeah,
Whereas Sinorth has stuff for everybody to do, but not as much for the tanks to do.
yeah.
So Sinarth is another one. Like I think it's going to depend a whole lot on how the mechanic, like the ice mechanic, ends up feeling once we actually feel it on live and not on laggy
Hmm.
beta servers.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it will be cool to see how that sort of plays out. Um, but yeah, I mean then of course there's the final two bosses. Did they ever test the final two on heroic?
They tested Diurna. They did not test
There.
Rajageth, so nobody outside of Blizzard has seen Rajageth at all.
I wonder. Yes, I was reading that there's actually, this is a little lore spoiler, but not that big of one. That there's four primal elemental
Yeah,
dragon or proto drakes or whatever.
yeah, and
Um,
one of the mechanics of the Rajageth fight is she breaks one out of his prison.
Yeah, which is gonna be so, I'm assuming that there'll be, like, more proto drakes coming out of that, which will be, oh god, I hope that, I don't know. I hope Rise Against is fun. I hope, like, regardless of how the other fights go, like, as long as the final boss or raid I think is interesting or cool, like, I think the raid itself will be fine, right? Because that's all you
Yeah,
care about. Um but yeah, no, I think that's sort of, I guess like in terms of, I guess you mentioned this, but in terms of like raid planning for you guys, you're basically going to see how the week goes and make the determination if you're doing normal or heroic first, or I guess maybe
we
jump right into
are
mythic.
we have an optional heroic that we're doing, or optional normal. We're definitely doing
Gotcha.
heroic and main. We're doing an optional normal um, on another night, and Mythic Plus, just like if you do between key level 10 and key level 15, you're getting
Yeah.
normal level gear. Um,
Gotcha.
there's a
Yeah.
and it's like people are probably not farming 15s before our raid night,
Hmm.
but they can probably farm 10s.
Right.
So it's not a big deal if people don't make it to the normal run. So we were just like, get eye level whatever way you want to. We're doing normal on this night. Um, if you
Hmm.
kind of thing.
Nice. Nice.
And then
Yeah.
heroic and main raid. I think
Okay.
heroic is first. but the specifics of like how many heroic bosses versus, and then like when do we go and kill some mythic bosses, is going to depend a lot on tuning.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because like it may be that Aranog, Taros, and Sinarth are just completely free, and so maybe we do like the first 7 heroic, and then go do
Hmm.
those, and then come back and do Rajageth. Or it might be that like all of heroic is just completely free, so we just like clear heroic and then go do mythic.
Keep going. Yeah. 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 It'll be interesting to see because like um for us, like because we raid on Tuesdays, like we have to make the determination going into the week.
Yeah,
And like I think we are like we've done this in the past. I don't know the final decision, but we will probably start with normal.
that's
Um
the other team in my guild is doing that as well. They raid Tuesday, Wednesday, so they're doing
yeah,
normal first, and I think that's correct if you raid Tuesday, Wednesday. But because we have 3 days where people can just like ease in
get a
their
bunch of
free
eye level,
time,
yeah.
do normal with us or with somebody else, like I had pushed for us to do normal in main raid,
Hmm.
because I think it is like the most fair to players kind of thing, like
Right.
where they don't need to figure out getting it outside of main raid hours if they can't come to one that we're just like,
Yeah.
but at the same time, the only thing that matters from raid at the normal eye level is the tier tokens.
Right. Yeah. 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 So yeah, we'll have to see how it goes. I mean, I'm assuming we'll see a bunch of bugs and tuning come out. Like, I mean, what was it? Sanctum dropped with Huntsman doing mythic level damage that
Yeah,
scaled
Castle
up
Nathria, yeah,
on or
yeah,
sorry, Nathria on the first night, like was given a dot that does 30k a tick and you're
yeah,
in like
in normal.
super low item level. Yeah. So no, yeah, we'll definitely see how the instance sort of plays out bug wise. But yeah, I mean I think that'll be our plan. Then like typically our raid group will do flex content after Wednesday. So or sorry, after our Thursday raid. Where we basically like if we get enough people on, we'll go in and clear anything that we can in the normal and heroic thing. I hope we get a mythic boss or two.
Yeah,
With the vault is 2, right? So you need at least 2
it's
kills.
2. So
Yeah.
if there's 3 mythic bosses that are just like free, we could get
Yeah.
everybody in the raid team 2 vault slot or a vault slot that's mythic. And that's just like if you have more than 20 people, you need 3 bosses, because you can only have 20 in at once. So you do like 15 the same between 2, and then 15 the same between the other 2, and then get every 5
Yeah.
their 2 slots.
Yeah. Yeah, so that'll be yeah, that might be the one sort of thing we probably take a look at on Thursday, right? Or even if some of the early stuff comes out, if the rate comes up early on Tuesday, we can check it out. Um but yeah, I mean I think that'll be our at least initial clear plan for the raid for sure. Um yeah, I mean, I maybe I guess sort of another couple topics is of course the large world first guilds have all announced their race for world first events.
Yeah,
So we've got Echo doing their event, partnering again with BDDG. Shout out to the homies, BDDG, love those guys. And then so Method's got or sorry, Echo's got theirs. We've got the Liquid stuff. They're all setting up in LA for their race for world first broadcast,
hopefully
and
less
then
less problems than their Boston setup.
yes, let's hope so. It's actually in Liquid's brand new facility
Okay,
there. So
that
um
sounds, honestly, that would freak me out. Brand new facility. Oh man, you don't know what problems they're gonna have. At least like when you go to an existing facility, right? You
yeah.
know, oh, we've had these problems, and you know, okay, we gotta be ready to deal with those problems. Brand new
Yeah.
facility, you don't know if like the network is going to be fine except for this one room where it's going to be a complete lag fiesta because somebody like did a bad job installing the ethernet. Like,
Yeah.
you don't know if the lights are going to just like shut off.
It's true. That's true. So
Brand
that'll be
fucking
interesting.
new.
It looks cool though. It looks cool. And they to be honest with you, they've had it open since I think September.
Oh,
So
okay,
people have
so
been at least working there. It's
okay,
not well, it's brand new in the context of like it was open in the last couple months, but
okay,
people have been working there. I think a couple of the like content creators have streamed from there previous to this
yeah.
stuff. So
I, I
they've done a
guess
couple things, bud.
I would be uncomfortable being the first one to like do a big
Yeah. I
Um,
think this is still the first big event there, so
okay,
there's still
yeah,
that
cool.
aspect of it. Um,
But at
but
least
yeah,
they,
so
it sounds
liquid.
like they have done some tests of it.
Yeah. They've had some like folks working and doing some other smaller stuff. I think a couple other teams have practiced there. Like their other esports teams have practiced at the facility too. So,
Yeah.
but
Okay.
yeah, that'll be cool. I'm just a huge in general Liquid fan. So not of the raid team, but of the overall organization. Going back to my or StarCraft 1 days, Brood War days, when that was the only way to get information on Korea was to go to the Team Liquid or not, yeah, the Team Liquid forums, um, where you could talk about StarCraft. Anyway, excited about that. And then of course Method is doing their event. So Method is back. Sans Sko, unfortunately.
Yeah,
Um,
Sko stepped down
yeah,
from
Sko
tanking.
stepped down.
So
Yeah,
he's
he's still got, I
he's
think it.
just management now.
Yeah, not even really involved. I even thinking like the planning or like the actual like game itself, like the raid itself. Maybe a little bit, but yeah, definitely more on the management side. It was just the org, the method org. Um and yeah, so these events, I mean, I don't know. I don't know how you feel about it, but like I typically gravitate towards the liquid one. Only because I find their inter-group dynamics more enjoyable, I guess is
Mhm.
the way to say it. Like they just seem like a bunch of people who, not that Echo aren't friends, but I think it's probably a cultural thing here where it's like just the limit guys or sorry, liquid folks just seem like friends, right?
Yeah,
Even if they aren't actually friends, it's a lot more banter, a lot more sort of like joking around. And like Echo is definitely, I think, a little bit more focused, but
I
which
think.
has helped. So
Yeah, I think. In poker, I started off watching a lot more of the Liquid streams, and some of that was just because of the times that I was trying to watch. Right, the EU
yeah.
schedule is different, and I was doing my own stuff in the evenings versus just having like the Liquid stream up while I'm doing, work.
Yeah.
And um, so, but then I ended up watching a lot more of the Echo ones towards the end, especially as the Liquid one got like progressively more doomer. Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
and yeah, but this will not be a 6 week long race. So,
I hope not.
oh,
I
there's no
really
way.
hope not.
There's actually a lot of chatter about this potentially being like an Emerald Nightmare tier, where Emerald Nightmare got like full clear to the day.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, I mean I've heard that a
although
little bit, but
So Emerald Nightmare, like the reason that happened is basically it was too lower as like an intro tier. They want people to like get in there and do it, but also they were unprepared for the influx of item level from keys and the influx of power from artifact power.
yeah.
So like the top guild had a bunch of it, the rest of the world not so much, and so the raid got cleared in a day,
Yeah.
or maybe it was 2 days. I don't remember. It was very short.
I think the thing is the everybody got to the last boss within the first like 20 hours of it opening, and then like a couple guilds are like, "Oh, we'll just go to sleep and we'll start this in the morning."
I think
And
the boss died.
Exorcist was like, "We'll stay up an extra hour," and ended up killing.
Yeah,
uh yeah, some of the lore there. But yeah, no, I think yeah, I mean coming off of Sepulcher, right, where Blizzard has been very vocal about the fact that like, all right, they're done with the arms race with the world first guilds, right?
yeah,
Like they sort of are
yeah,
like, we're no longer creating Halandrises or
yeah.
Rygolons or you know
The
those type of
jailer.
fights. The jailer, right? And so yeah, I see this sort of being probably in general a quicker tier, like
Yeah,
quicker if we think the respects to the other ones. I think it's probably a like one reset, like a late one reset clear.
yeah.
Is sort of what they'd probably shoot for.
Which was
Um,
the standard. Like that
yeah,
was every tier was like that for
yep,
BFA and for Shadowlands up until Sepulcher because like Sylvanas died at the end of the first reset.
yeah.
And Nathrius did too, right? That was a like Monday kill. Or was that a Tuesday kill?
I think Denathrius was who got it. Was it? It was Liquid, right? Because they opened it up with that, and yeah,
I think
that
that
was
might have been a
a
Tuesday kill. I think that might have been a second
yeah
reset kill.
yeah, but it was like right after second reset, yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, so I mean, yeah, I think that's what Blizzard should aim for, and hopefully we get that. I mean, I'm like at the end of the day, for like the people who do, like, I'm not a world first person, so like generally for me, I'm gonna see fights that have been nerfed slightly,
Yeah.
right? So I
Yeah.
don't need it to be the hardest thing ever. But yeah, at least for these guys, I hope that it's at least a week, right? It's a solid, like, 7, maybe 8 days of progression. I think
Yeah.
the only thing that may extend this one, which we haven't really talked about too much, but the fact that they're releasing all normal,
Yeah.
heroic, and mythic at the same time, which
So some of
honestly
their
means, oh, sorry.
I mean, I think I was going to say the same thing you were. It means that the first week, instead of it just being heroic splits like it has been, they
Yeah.
have to also do mythic, um, or can also do mythic. Maybe there's an unspoken agreement between the guilds that like week one is heroic splits, and then they
Yeah.
go doing like sub mythic, and then they go do more heroic splits. Who knows? But this is way different in that regard, as opposed to entering mythic with already like max heroic gear, effectively.
Right. Yeah, and I think that'll be the one sort of strategy I think that presents itself here is like how do you balance where to go? Like where do you
Yeah,
put your players to balance it, right? And like I think the other, yeah, so that's sort of one aspect that I think will be interesting. Like who makes the first steps into Mythic, like with a serious like push for it, right? Like how do you actually do your splits? Like how much do you focus or push gear to one player? Do you do any
yeah,
normals, right? Like it
yeah.
does it get to the point of like, do you need to do normals for certain characters
I think
or
that
certain
there's
players? So
potentially like tier token stuff that they do normals.
yeah.
There's also the change to group loot, so that there's not the same kind of stacking that was going on, where you
Uh-huh.
know, in Sepulcher, they would have like a stack that was only like rogues and warriors and monks
Right.
to trade those tokens to specific people. Um, because it's group loot now, they don't have that. It's That's not to say they can't do splits or they can't stack things. They just have to stack it differently. Instead of trying to stack all of one kind of thing in a single group,
Yep.
they instead have to try and set up a like diverse group comp that can use anything that's going to drop.
Yeah,
So
potentially. Yeah,
like
not things wasted.
you want to have like one cloth wearer, one mail wearer, one leather wearer, one plate wearer, and like so that if a mail helm drops, it's not going to waste. Basically, you're trying to not waste loot.
Yeah. Yeah, and so like it's funny, it becomes no longer like it's almost like the splits, at least the community participation in the splits is now no longer like, oh, I'm a leather wearer that has this item level, I can trade it, let me come. It's like, no, like we need more people that can actually do these fights so we can clear them with like only a five stack from liquid or five stack from echo, right?
Yeah,
They get like the max amount of gear coverage. So yeah, it'll be interesting how they do that. I don't we didn't mention this either, which they announced this earlier this week, but BOE items that drop from the raid are BOP, are actually dropping as BOP for the first couple weeks.
only mythic, right?
Is it only mythic?
I didn't. I think so. Hang on.
I didn't think they caveated it, but
Yeah,
if it is only mythic, then it actually doesn't change much because I
it
feel
basically
like
means that you can't sell your mythic BO
yeah,
the first couple of weeks.
gonna lose out
And
on
some of that
gold
is
cap.
you're guaranteed to get mythic BOEs, right? Because of the new BOP or BOE system, where like
Yeah,
there's
from the
mini bosses that are
lieutenants.
guaranteed to drop them. Um,
Yeah. But yeah, that I mean, there's a lot of like I think interesting changes around how the raid's being released going in that I'd like. It'll be fun to see how these guilds deal with it, right?
yeah,
Like how do they make the determination? And I think having it all released at once probably means now that I'll backtrack a little bit from what I just said because I sort of half forgot about it. It probably means that this ends up being a 2 week raid, right? Like,
yeah,
just based on time and the amount of time they'll have to put in, like, it almost seems like they don't have enough time to get all 8 on Mythic done within one reset.
yeah,
Um, but yeah, it just means, like, literally Tuesday, Wednesday, launch the raid is gonna be so interesting in terms of,
yeah.
like, how many different splits they're doing, like, how they organize it all, like, that to me, honestly, like, the world first race to me is that aspect of it. It's like the setup and the strategy behind how they did
The
it
kind of meta
versus like
strategy. Yeah.
Yeah, versus like the actual boss fights. Like how you kill a boss, oh, it's cool, you get it first. Oh, that's interesting. Like, oh, this guy did a lot of damage, or this guy did a lot of healing. Great, that's fun. But like, yeah, I think for me the more interesting part is like the thought process behind like why they did certain things um
Yeah.
to get set up for it. So
I did
um
pull it up. It is only mythic items that are BOP
okay,
for the
cool.
first few weeks. So they said once a few weeks have passed, uh, we'll revise the items to drop as BOEs in mythic difficulty. So this might just be like a post Christmas holidays kind of change, where like
Yeah.
or hedging their bets and not being like, oh, we're going to change it after 2 weeks, and then somehow the race goes into a third week and they're like buying up. It's like,
Yeah. Yeah, which is, I mean, if it goes into a third week, that's actually Christmas, right? Like
yeah,
that's
that's actually Christmas.
yeah. So
No,
I
no,
mean,
second week is Christmas week.
oh yeah, second week is Christmas week. So yeah, they basically
Yeah,
have to be done by the before
very
the
end of the second week. So it's not like if it's a Tuesday thing, they've got plenty of time. But
yeah.
yeah. So one of the things that I wanted to touch on while we're talking about raid stuff,
Yeah.
and this is related to the World First race as well. Like the World First teams have Aura and add-on developers on their
Hmm.
staff in order to build tools for these fights, which is both cool and kind of feels bad. But
Yeah.
you know, um, there are not very many like assignment things this tier. There are very very few.
Yeah. We
Um,
were I was looking through that the other day. Yeah.
so and even like where there were some of them got removed after beta or appear to have. Dungeon Journal
Hmm.
changed. Can't tell how it actually works now. We'll see on Tuesday. Um, but like, okay, Taros had the Awakened Earth spikes that came up, and the way it did work on beta is that there were two sources of them. One from Rock Blast, which just like popped them up under in the
Yeah.
Rock Blast, which the whole raid soaked through all over the place in that circle, and then like three people got targeted by it, and theirs went specific locations.
Yeah.
And so there was like a an assignment week or a thing where like you would have like one of them go right and the other two go left or something to like split
Right.
them up so that it's easier for your tank to just be. Um, that second entry in the dungeon journal is gone now.
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
So I'm thinking maybe there's not specific players that get them now, and they just all come from Rock Blast.
Yeah.
Um, so we're gonna have to see. It may just be a dungeon journal change and not an actual functional change to the fight.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Um, we'll find out on Tuesday. But that's the kind of thing where like that would be kind of neat if it was, because that would remove an assignment week from the game before it even is really necessary.
Yeah.
Like I've whipped one up on beta while we were testing it, and it was very simple. It just said go right, right?
Yeah.
Like if you had the debuff, it just told you to go to the right of the rock blast circle. Um, but you know, fewer weak orders is fewer mandatory weak orders for a fight is good. Um,
Oh yeah.
Progressing weak auras is not the fun part of progressing a raid, and was a really frustrating part of doing like Anduin and um and
The,
the jailer.
oh, the jailer, dude. Like the the jailer Weekora is still like annoying, right?
Yeah,
Like it's still like super like it's buggy. Like luckily at the end it didn't matter. Like you could stack three people in the same hole and like
one of them would
you would
die, but
live.
you would be okay.
Yeah, I mean yeah, but yeah, but like the rest of it was just like oh, like, yeah, just like whenever it broke and two people were into the same hold on progression, just like, so like we had one warlock in our guild that literally would reload his UI every pull because like he like was like, I'm not taking any more chances. Like I'm not getting
Yeah,
screwed up. And like you'd need
yeah,
a reload to like to do it. So
yeah.
um
So like
yeah.
aside from Rajagath, because again I have not done very much looking at the mechanics of Rajagath, like the other seven bosses, I think there's
Uh-huh.
two places that you could really benefit from an assignment week or um potentially three, but one of them I don't think is really the case. That third one is Primal Council. The lava pools,
Okay.
they're targeted at people. You get to go and place them, and they're group soaks. So you gotta like, and they're group soaks and you can't soak both of them, realistically speaking. Technically, you
Mm-hmm.
can. It's a lot of extra damage and very lethal. So I wouldn't. But so in theory, you would have to do like, oh, you soak group A, you soak group B, except that on beta, it appeared to always put one on a ranged person and one on a melee person, which lets you do it super
Oh,
easily without a
okay.
weak aura because you just say ranged go right, melee go left,
Yeah.
and you're done. You don't need a weak aura for that. So the two other places that I think you could end up with assignment weak auras are on Karagrim Totem. There's several soaks on that fight. There's one in particular that is randomly targeted lightning debuffs that go on people. And I think you're gonna have a weak aura for that that says like attach your and the lightning like attaches to the nearest person to you. It's like the
Gotcha.
orbs on Regulon, except that the orb is a person.
Okay. Okay.
Um,
Interesting.
so I think you're gonna end up with an assignment weak aura for that. That just tells
Right.
you like you're gonna have three people on it. It's probably gonna be two tanks and one healer, and you just have an assignment weak aura that says you're linked to, you know, tank A, you're linked to tank B, or you're linked to this healer, and
Yeah.
then that's how you handle that mechanic. The other one is on
Ah,
Dethea Ascended. On Mythic only, you charge up the ads that you kill to get to the far platforms. So there's going to be some stuff of like, not only do you charge it up, but when you do the charging, it does like a Painsmith trap thing. It applies a dot to the raid, and if you stack that dot, it gets really
everybody
dangerous.
does. Yeah.
Unlike Painsmith, like 2 is not lethal, or like
Uh-huh.
bursting, I guess, kind of in that regard, where like a lot of bursting is really dangerous, but a few stacks is fine.
Yeah.
Um, so you're probably gonna have a little bit of an assignment weak core that's like, stop go, and also
Uh-huh.
which ad you're dropping your debuff on.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's like it. Like Diurna, you don't need it. Um, None of the other bosses really have room for it or need. It's very nice.
Yeah. That is really cool.
So I have
Yeah.
like a set of interrupt weak cores that I'm gonna put together. And that's basically all of the like raid weak cores that I have to prep, which is kind of nice.
Yeah, and I think for us, there's a couple like helper ones, like you said, that point you maybe in the direction to go. But yeah, I haven't seen a glow weaker, which is the only thing I need, which is like one of those it'll glow
Yeah,
raid frames for specific abilities. I haven't seen one of those yet.
there aren't very
Um,
many dispels.
yeah, which thank the Lord, I
There
can't.
are there are a few. There's actually the most significant ones are purges.
Good.
So on Diurna, there's this mechanic that one of the ads does, where they do damage equal to 20% of everybody's health, friendly and enemy, in range. Um, and then you heal back 200% of that.
Gotcha.
And you can dispel it. So you mass dispel it off of the enemies, so that they take the
That's
damage
easy.
and then don't get healed.
Not too bad. Not too bad. Yeah. Yeah. So I mean, like, yeah. Hopefully the mechanics are a little bit easier to just react to versus needing like like they've talked about like a weak aura that tells you
Yeah,
exactly where to like plant your feet, what to do,
yeah. Not
all
needing a
that fun stuff.
spaceship UI to like explain to you what's happening in the fight to make it
Yes.
killable is honestly like, if that's how it actually plays out, like I could be entirely wrong. But if that's how it plays out, I will be really happy.
Yeah. 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 So but yeah, I mean it's they've seemed to do Dragonflight in general seems just a lot more chill, uh a lot more fun, I guess we'll say, right?
Yeah,
In terms of like, what they've got in place, and hopefully the raid turns out to be good. I mean, there's, I don't think we talked about every fight, but there's also like we talked a little about the council fight. I
yeah.
I hate council fights in general, but
I think the two fights that I am like really not looking forward to are Dethea Ascended, because of the timing issues that I mentioned. It
yep.
feels like it's going to devolve into some SLG nonsense with stop go. Uh,
Oh no.
that's the like
Yeah.
that's the thing that I'm concerned about with that. Or like the
Yeah.
Kel'Thuz. A better analogy is probably the Kel'Thuzad intermission, where like you just had to get it low and then sit on it for a minute and then kill it,
Right. Yeah.
and that's going to be really annoying. And then the other one is Diurna. I don't think
Diurna.
anybody I have heard any. I take that back. One person I know in my raid team is excited about Diurna. It's a gigantic ad fight, and they get to do gigantic ad fight things.
God. Yeah.
Um, but
Yeah.
yeah, uh, I played every boss on beta, and I think it's looking good. Um, I will say actually another thing interesting before we wrap up.
Yep.
Almost every beta tested boss has at least one public logged mythic.
Easy. That's awesome.
Almost everyone. Diurna does not. Diurna is not even close. Not even a little bit close.
Yeah. But yeah.
There's like a 5 minute long poll, but the boss is at like 70% health. I think Kurog doesn't have one either. But
Okay.
Kurog also got a bunch of changes from beta, so
Yeah.
but like Aranog, Taros, Senarth, Primal Council, um and Dethea. Dethea has one singular public mythic kill, but it's
Still a
got one.
kill. Yeah. Yeah.
Um which is like that's not how it was on in Sanctum or on Sepulcher.
Really.
Sepulcher there
Yeah. Yeah.
were virtually
That's true.
no public mythic kills from beta and very very few mythic kills past the first few in Sanctum. Like I think people killed Guardian. I think people
Right.
killed like Eye of the Jailer and the Nine and Terror Grew, like the early ones.
Yeah.
But Fate Scribe, I don't think had it. Kel'Thuzad definitely didn't. They
Yeah. I
of
don't
course
recall
didn't
that fight
mythic test
was.
Sylvanas. Painsmith definitely did.
Yeah.
Remnant and Soul Render, I don't. I think Soul Render did, and then they like quadrupled the damage that it did,
Yeah.
and
And
that's
then
why.
eventually paired it back, right? Like
Yeah.
during the first week. Yeah.
Um.
Yeah. No. I'm sorry.
Yeah. I mean, we'll see what they how it all ends, how it all pans out. But
Yeah.
yeah,
No, it'll be yeah, I'm super excited. And I guess the maybe one final point, just so we sort of wrap up the raid, is there is a skip in the raid. So uh it doesn't take you right to the end boss. It's a three things. You kill the first boss, then it opens up the skip, and then you have to kill the last two.
yeah.
Um
It basically lets you
but
go straight to Diurna.
yeah, Diana, yeah. But yeah, and you gotta kill Diana, I think three it's actually only three times this point. At least that's what the current quest is.
That's
Um
nice, honestly.
yeah. Yeah, makes it slightly quicker to pick it up, and yeah, so I mean there is a raid skip, which I think is awesome. They need to do more raid skips. Like I wish it was like honestly, ugh, it would be awesome if it was like the either the HFC skip or the Jaina skip, which really wasn't a skip, where it's just like
Jaina 1 was like added at the end for people doing Mount Run. Like that's not
exactly,
that's not a real thing. Um,
exactly.
One actual final thing I just thought of and I wanted to mention: there's not a mythic raid mount, but
Yes.
but there is a mythic raid dragon riding cliff thing that makes your renewed proto Drake look like Rajagath.
Oh, really? I didn't realize that.
Yeah. You
That
can
is
actually see it
super
if you
cool.
go to the rostrum of transformation in
Okay.
Veldraken or any of the other places in the Dragon Isles that have one.
Uh-huh.
You can go and see it because you get to look at things that you don't have yet. There is basically a full reskin that makes
Oh,
your
wow.
mount look like Rajagath.
That's
Um,
super cool. I'm gonna get that. I'm excited.
so that's pretty. I think that's pretty cool. And of course, those are all like account wide unlocks too. So like you get it on one character, you're good
Yeah.
to go. But yeah, I am honestly really. The more I talk about this, the more excited I get about this week. I'm so hyped for it.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
My body is ready. I've been waiting too long for this.
It's been literally 2 weeks since we
But
since we
it's not
stopped.
been too. No. Okay, season 4.
Okay, fair
No,
enough. Yeah,
season 4.
just a normal raid
Like
tier,
I don't want to
normal
say
raid
season
tier.
4 sucked because I want them to do more stuff like season 4. But season 4, I was miserable.
Yeah,
It
yeah,
was so stressful for me.
yeah.
Um, like so the last progression was in very beginning of July. like
Yeah,
that for us. Um,
it's true.
so it's been like, so basically like end of month 6, right about. I think we killed Jailer on like July.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Oh, we did.
month
Oh,
6, we're now in month 12. It's been 6 months. I'm so ready for new
yeah,
bosses. I am so ready. Like the season 4, like going back and doing old bosses was great, except for the fact that I didn't get to spend very much time doing Denathras, which is the only thing I care.
yeah, yeah, yeah. No, I guess it has been a long time since we've had some real progression. So yeah, it'll be. I mean, I'm excited for this week. Hopefully, the servers are stable on Tuesday. I'd like
Yep.
to not have issues there. But yeah, we'll see. We'll see how it goes. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm excited. I'm excited. I think yeah. Now you've gotten me excited. Like now I'm on board with this.
Yeah.
Like yeah,
It's gonna
let's kill
be
some
great.
bosses.
Like
Let's kill
Tuesday
some
comes out,
bosses.
we get to do keys, we get to do the raid. Like I cannot wait.
Yeah, yeah, no, yeah, yeah. It'll be a good time. So
But
well, awesome.
I think that is gonna wrap up our show for today. Thank you all for watching and or listening. And if you want to support this podcast and all the work that we do over on the Peak of Serenity, like Anomoly's belated Mistweaver guide updates that people were asking in Twitch chat about,
It's not me, but it's someone else. We're getting them up there. Don't worry. Getting them up there.
I blame you personally.
That's fair. That's fair. That's fair. You can blame me.
Um, you can do that over on our Patreon at patreon.com/Peak of Serenity. And of course, come and join the Discord. It's a good place to come and hang out. Please don't join and go straight to Dragonflight, like the Dragonflight Brew channel, and Doom post about the nerfs. It's been a problem. It's fine. Brewmaster's not the best. We know that already. You don't need to come and tell us. We know.
Yes. Yes.
The monk Discord is no stranger to being like, we have a dead spec emoji and we've had it since Legion.
Yeah.
This is
Yeah.
nothing new. It just hasn't been Brewmaster before. Like,
Exactly.
it's fine. People played Windwalker in Legion and in BFA and in Shadowlands, even while they were bad. Same thing with Mistweaver. It's fine.
It'll be okay. It'll be okay.
It's fine. All right, that's it. Thank you all for listening, and we will see you next week.
Bye.